Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Um, so what prompted you to get into technical product? I will say it's for me personally was the fact that I started out in in business, right? Um, so my career or what I studied in school was pharmacy. And that was actually where I started. Pharmacy is highly technical, right? And one of the biggest things I would say I had was curiosity, right? And but when I was done with school, of course, we all know how our parents would say, hey, go study medicine or go study pharmacy and just make me proud by becoming this professional. But after that, I realized that I wanted to do more computer systems. I mean, a lot of us will avoid all those long hauls if we had the right academic advisors, honestly. But so I started coding, right? I started coding. I started out as a software engineering intern, just solving problems with code. And in doing that, I realized that I wanted to know more. Of course, I was doing front end engineering at the time before I then began to gently transition into project and product management at that point. But also when I started out, because I had um, understanding of, going deep into systems, I think generally that I have a systems mindset. Of course, at first, because I did front-end engineering, it was easier to think about where should the buttons be, where should the UI, what should the UI look like? Is it solving business problems? Is it solving the user problems? But with time in my career, I started realizing that that was half of the school system, right? I had to start doing deeper dives into, okay, what was the entire system architecture? Instead of wondering, about where does our data flow from? And, just trying to understand, okay, what does the backend look like? What are these business goals? Can we meet them by using these tools, right? These cloud services, or, you know, just in doing that, in asking better questions, I started realizing that I had to go deeper and actually started with that curiosity deeper into technical project or product management. But the idea was generally being curious. Being curious got me here, right? Okay, how do we test it deeply? How do I, especially when I started testing APIs newly, I had to think about, okay, how was it built? How would data flow? And I slowly began that transition. I will say it's still a learning process. The technology continues to evolve. The highest now being artificial intelligence. One of the key things I'm asking myself is how do I ensure that I understand? You don't need to know everything, just understand enough that you make the right decision building the tools or products that you handle, just so that um, you get better and better at articulating the needs of the users, match them with business goals, right? And at the same time, ensure that you work collaboratively with the tech team to make it a reality in such a way that it's sustainable at a price that is sustainable for the business. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Choma, for that. It's actually quite interesting to hear that your curiosity got you here. And on this note, I would say I don't want to talk too much. I would like to pass the mic over to David. We would like to hear what his journey is like and how to
All right.
So, Mr. David, are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me clearly?
Oh, yes, I can.
Okay. I missed the question at the start. Do you mind to take that again?
Oh, yes. I was saying if you could share your background as a technical product manager with us, what led you up to this moment, and just all of it, as much as you
All right.
want.
Yeah. Um, I started my career more than a decade ago. Um, I started more from the technical side of things before I now started moving more into the product role. At the time, like what Chairman mentioned, for me, it's been more of curiosity, right? Having a system thinking around how products should work, how enterprise architecture should work. Okay, so I started my career in banking, where we were rolling out some key deployment for top banks, in Nigeria. I also moved on from there, to work across different sectors, both locally and internationally. Some of the key sectors I've worked, aside banking, is more of the fintech space. I've been very heavy in that area. Then also um, telecoms as well, and also identity tech, for the government of Nigeria. I've had opportunity to work in some really interesting as in product that have exposed me to how a technical product role should be for someone like myself. Yeah. So what I think should really, for someone who really wants to transition from a non-technical, space to a technical product role, should be more of curiosity. You need to understand, you basically need to understand how, as in the front end and back end, work. You need to, um, you need to be very curious, how these things work. And the only way you can be curious about it is to get your hands dirty. I would recommend anyone who wants to move into that space should probably start with testing, because you need to understand the products, you're building, um, and how the key interactions, would work, in terms of the front end and the back end. Yeah, so from there, that would give a lot of exposure, to what space you really want to play from the technical perspective. Yeah, so I would say that's a summary of what my background is.
Oh, thank you very, very much. And if I would
All right, thank
say,
you.
that was very insightful. In summary of what um, you and Choma have said, I would say you've given us a very explanatory background, and I would say you both are coming from like what technical backgrounds. Choma coming from the coding and engineering section into the product, and you kickstarting with the technical roles. That's quite impressive. And just keeping the curiosity, keeping the engagement hands-on, and like you said, getting your hands dirty. So that's one great thing to actually get into being a technical products role. But that also brings me to asking the questions: are there particular skill sets, tools that one needs to master as a technical product manager, or is it just okay, for each product, we just go with it? So, David, since your camera is still on, I will throw the question to you.
All right.
Hope you got
Um,
that.
okay, yeah. You're talking about tools, that anyone who want to transition to the technical space should be using, right?
Yes, yes, that's exactly.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I would assume that if you're starting from the business side, you already know how to write effective user stories, your PRDs, right? Also, you being able to gather proper requirements, from the business stakeholder. So some major tools, of course, you start with the very popular ones. You've been able to use project management tools, right? The likes of Jira, using Confluence, and of course, ClickUp as well to track your work, right? Then also, you should be able to use, you should be able to use tools as in basic, as in tools like, you should understand how Swagger work. You should be able to use Postman for you to be able to call APIs, right? You understanding what the request and response is, so that it gives you an idea of how the system works. Okay. You also need to be able to use some, like as in visualization tools um, to create, as in to create architectural as in diagrams, you know, nothing too, how will I call it, as in too technical per se, but I mean, on a high level, you should be able to show how all the systems as an interact. And if you can use that to create something I'll call as in a sequence diagram, right? Just so that anyone that's, if you're talking to the engineers, when you've gathered your requirements, you've read, I mean, in your head, you already think how this system is going to flow, how the data will flow, how the different systems are speaking to themselves. So, for instance, I'm building a remittance product, right? And I have to integrate to third parties. Okay. So your own line of business applications as your existing system, right? How would it, what's the data interaction, between your system and that external system that you're integrating to? Okay. What's the entire journey? So you need to be able to draw as a sequence diagram that shows how the system do interact. Okay. So basically, I believe if you have, these are basic tools, right? If you have these basic tools, it should be able to um, help you to be comfortable as in speaking with engineers, so that you can translate your as in your business requirements into technical requirements that the engineers do understand more than the business. Of course, most engineers, they just want to build. Coming into a technical role, you are the eyes of the business, and you're sitting in that space where you need to make things a little bit as in granular, even if it is high level, so the engineer understands the objective at the end of the day. And of course, testing as well. I'm an advocate of you being involved in testing, right? From when the idea was conceptualized, from when you're writing the user stories, okay, until the point, where the integration is done. You need to be able to know, um, I mean, once you get your hands as in dirty in testing, right? It gives you, for me, it actually gives you an edge, even up to the point where you roll out to production. You should be heavily involved in testing. Do not entirely delegate that activity, even if it's delegated, right? Be involved in the process, it just gives you an edge, in my own opinion. Yeah, thank you. That would be it for me.
Wow, that's basically a whole lot. It's You've actually walked us through the skill sets, the tools, and daily activities, interactions we have to have with our team members, and it's quite interesting. And I know one or two persons have asked that. Well, talking about technical product managers and interacting with the team, is it just only about the engineers? What about the QA testers, the product designers, and customer support? Are they also technical teams or they are all non-technical teams?
Okay. Of course. So, I'm an agile coach as well too, and when it comes to building products, I'm an advocate that you have a dedicated team. So if I have a product I want to build, right, and I have, if it's possible, get everyone that is needed, in the same team. Let them attend the same, stand up, right? Let them have the same meetings, so that the conversations are not siloed. Okay. These are the ways as in deal with dependencies. Okay. So depending on what framework the organization runs, okay, from your UI/UX designer to your tester, if you have someone that is in charge of deployment, your DevOps team, let them be there. Okay. Then your engineers, your software developers. Okay. If you have BAs, depending on how you're structured, let everybody be in the same team. Okay. Once you get the as in the requirements, as in from the business, you've gotten an approval, this is what we want to build, you've done your market research, and you start building, right? From when you're writing the user stories, when you're having, depending on what framework you have, maybe you have as in chat sessions, or you have sprint planning sessions, or backlog grooming. Okay. Once you've decided, okay, these are the user stories um, related to the future we want to build, and we've committed to these are commitments, for a particular iteration. Okay. Let everyone be there, so that any dependency that is being spotted at that point in time, the team can as in trash it out. Okay. Don't forget that your role as the product manager in this case is you are basically as in involved in what the team want to build. Okay. Right. The how the team wants to build it, it's a team effort, right? The team have to decide, okay, this is exactly how we want to build us, as long as we understand what the objective is. Okay. So I'm an advocate that all these team members, that make up as the Scrum team, that's if that is what you run in your organization, get everybody in the same room, you know, let everybody, once you're able to um, once you're able to communicate properly what the requirement is, and you're able to break it down in technical language, then the team can decide. Yeah. So that would be my response to that.
Okay, thank you very much for that.
All right. Thank you.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, the next question will be going to Ms. Choma. So I understand you came in through coding and more technical roles in products. And I just want to ask, transitioning to the product role, were there times when you felt like you had imposter syndrome, or you felt, am I really being a PM? Am I being a front end in this role? Or is it me just freestyling? Or am I supporting the dev team more than I'm supporting the design team? Yeah, I feel there are moments like that. So, how also while you're sharing about those moments, I also like you to share how you navigated such times, and how you can also advise people that are even non-technical product managers on the old imposter syndrome as well. Thank
Yeah, thank you. Yes, and a huge yes to your questions, right? Especially when I started. I was always kind of like worried about, was I keeping that balance between understanding the business teams and just understanding what the business needed, and helping the team, the technical team, translate that into the vision that we had for the product. And of course, that being that I didn't even come from a traditional background, right? I struggled with that for a long time. Well, yeah, for a while, before I finally started saying, okay, maybe it's not that bad to actually have a lot of experience in the technology, but I needed to then know when to step back and not be as hands-on, in product definition, in the sense of, oh, it must be this way, it should be this way, and just understanding team leadership. And that was the game changer for me. I started accepting that in my role, I was helping to lead the team in some ways, right? Get us to be aligned on the goals that we wanted to achieve. So yes, I had that imposter syndrome at first. But I'm grateful that I was able to um balance that out, mitigate it by just reflection, right? Why was I at this time feeling like I was being too technical, or sometimes being like I wasn't really sure uh what the value that I should deliver. And the biggest one is being honest about where you are. Was I feeling this imposter syndrome because I did not fully understand the technical implications of the solution, or I didn't understand what the business was trying to achieve, or there was no clarity within the team? In fact, that's the biggest one. If your team lacks clarity, it's going to show. And once it shows, it's going to undermine confidence in you as their TPM, because it means that you yourself doesn't also understand where you're leading the team to, right? The vision of the product. So those three key things were things I just started working on, right? I started working on them. If I didn't understand technically what we were doing, I would go and read documentation, right? I'm an avid learner, so I take a lot of courses. A lot of them are technical, but I don't care, right? Things like prompt engineering, I needed to understand vectorization, I needed to understand, you know, um, anything actually, right? And do that. That was what actually helped me to, keep spiraling deeper and deeper into technology. And then try my hands at tools, right? If I wasn't sure, for the stack that we were using, some of the trade-offs, and I wasn't sure that this
Yeah, I think Chioma's network glitch. Oh,
can
she's
you
back.
sorry, can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yes, I can hear you now. This person.
Okay.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so apologies for that. Then I would, just go on and do my own research, right? Read technical documentation, ask the right questions around scalability so that I could ask questions around scalability, performance, why were we taking this approach in architecture? Okay, let's craft a scenario. What about this edge case? How do we handle it? Okay, talk to me about the cost implications of using this solution versus using this solution, right? And with that, that helped me, just get more and more technical, get more comfortable with having technical conversations. I've done courses on Google Cloud, AWS Cloud, just going at it, including KCNA, just understanding Kubernetes, and just thinking about the right approach and how to help the team better. In all those things, I was trying to make sure that business goals, what we're trying to achieve, the vision of the product, was also aligned with our technical implementation. So that was the first thing that grew my confidence. The second thing is making sure I understood business goals, right? So typically what I do, I just get whoever is in charge of my team, whether I was working directly with the CEO or I was working with the director of that product unit. I'd bring them, I'd sit them down and help and have them clearly explain the vision of the product, right? If they are the ones setting the product vision. And then in cases where I'm leading, setting the product vision, I'd need to have truly clear data-driven insights, right? And in doing that, I could bring my stakeholders together and then we would talk through why this was the vision. Of course, they'd poke holes at it and they'd say, that's what we want to. And with their feedback, I then iterate. Now, with that clarity, that moved on to the third one, which is what? Helping the team, driving the team forward through clarity, right? With that, I could then go back to my team and then be as clear and concise with them regarding what we were trying to achieve, right? And so that when we made technical decisions, whether trade-offs on design or whether trade-offs on the technical implementation or the stack that we were using, we will clearly understand from a return on investment perspective what we were doing. So in this scenario, it will seem like the user is not there, but the user is thoroughly left, front, right, center, right? Why? Because already we are working around the user needs, right? So ensuring that that was also clear, that even though we are matching ROI on business, ROI to our technical decisions, but we will also clearly understand that this was driven by the user needs, right? But why I had to do this at this intersection, the three of them, working at the intersection of the three of them, is to help the team better know, because you can select a problem to solve, right? And it will not be sustainable for the business, right? So that means that you cannot truly solve every problem, right? So that's it. We have decided the user problems we want to solve, but at the same time, those problems we've selected match the goals that the business want to also solve. And it matches the fact that we believe there's an investment opportunity and we're investing in it because we will get an ROI by solving those problems. So just having confidence around business, users, technical implementation, and helping drive clarity within the team, those were the things that helped me to gain more confidence as a TPM, you know, and just helping the team make the right decisions and asking great questions. And also helped me, reduce um, reduce imposter syndrome over time. Yes, thank you.
Wow, thank you very much for that. You actually did go from sharing how you went through the imposter syndrome, steps you took, how you had a whole mindset change, how you picked up a different mindset of leadership, and the whole process of continuous learning. Wow, that's it's to show that I'm sure there's no way you are still not working on the old imposter syndrome, but I guess we get better with time. So,
Definitely
going
do, yeah.
forward, okay. So, I guess my next question would be going to Mr. David. I saw you giving a thumbs
Yeah.
up during the
Oh yeah, yeah.
talk with
Yeah, I
Fiona.
can relate. I can relate with what Chama said. The truth is, whatever the divide you're coming from, whether you're coming from a technical role, to the non-technical role, or the other way, right? You would, let's be honest, you would experience an imposter syndrome. Okay. Um, but, um, but the most important thing is how you deal with it. Okay. And part of what I would say in my own experience, has been first, your decision really needs to be data driven, right? And you need to ensure that you can manage your stakeholders as an up there. Okay. And what do I mean by that? Yes, the business say this is the strategic initiative we want, right? Now, you need to go to the market. You need to do your research as in backed by the data. This initiative that we want to start, is it really worth it? You need to speak with, aside the data, you need to speak with actual users, to determine if what you want to, I mean, that initiative or that project that you're about to start, there's something there for the business, Um, and also, when you're speaking to upper management, right, they are more, how will I call it, they are more outcome driven rather than tax. Oh, want to do this, want to do that, what is the outcome of this initiative? So if you're able to clearly articulate your findings, right? Based on, as in the research you've carried out, show what the data is. And by this, you really need to work with a team, when doing this, okay? It's very important to get that stakeholder buying for that idea, particularly when you're talking to the business, you know. By doing this more often, challenge yourself. Maybe you don't used to be in some certain type of meetings, you're not comfortable as in talking in those kind of meetings, challenge yourself, to put yourself on the spot, right? Get into those rooms, because more than what you're building, right? You really need to be able to communicate the value of what that initiative is, and carry your important stakeholders as in along. All right, that's how we respond to that.
Okay, that's really shedding more light onto everything Miss Choma already said. And if I'm actually to sync what you would have said, I would say It's all about building the bridge between the business goals, your data results, or making data decisions, and proper communication with stakeholder. If I'm correct, yes. Does that give a summary?
Yes, yes, yes. And if I may add, right? At times, as in, if I may
Okay.
add, right? At times, as in, I mean, we technical people, as in, fall into that. I would like into that trap, of not being able to clearly articulate, your achievement, as in the outcome. you know, when you're giving your reports to your stakeholders, at times, if you're not careful, they are just, oh, tax related. It should be more of outcome. It should be outcome driven. That way it's easy to communicate to the business in the language they understand.
Okay, that's lovely to hear. So my next question, we'll throw it to both of you, but just briefly, just give. I guess I'll start with you. Briefly, just give us. Okay, you already said about communicating the business goals. I know a lot of persons say, as a technical product manager, you have to be able to communicate with the dev team. You have to speak their technical terms. You have to talk about APIs. You have to talk about all of that, and you also have to go to the design team. You have to talk about the whole design systems. Then you have to go to the Q&A. You have to talk about their whole testing and going over to the customer support. You have to speak their languages. Then some people will say, oh, as a technical person, you just have to keep speaking out all these technical, I won't use the word jargon, but to people that are non-technical persons, they see it that way. So I guess I would start with Mr. David, then Ms. Choma should also give a spotlight on that. How would you advise the communication to both the business owners, stakeholders, the team members, and even customers, the users that we are approaching? How do we communicate this our technical, let me not use the word technical jargon, but yeah, let's just say it. How do we communicate all these things to everybody?
All right.
Mr.
Yeah.
David, are you still with us?
Yeah. Can you hear me clearly? Please confirm.
Yes, I can
Can you
hear
hear me?
you.
Okay. Still
Yes.
in line with what I've said earlier, right? First thing is you need to read the room. Who are your audience? Okay. Um, Again, it should be outcome driven. I'll give an instance. Okay. Let's assume this week, assume I'm the head of infrastructure or the CTO of a major fintech, right? This week, our servers were up, we didn't experience spike, for instance, right? I was able to now show as in my report, the data utilization for all the different products, right? Okay. I should be able to communicate that in a way to say that, for instance, this week we were able to process XYZ transactions successfully. We did not experience as in downtime, and this impacted our revenue in XYZ, you know, put it in that language, okay? Or for whatever reason, um, we were able to save costs, this week because we got, for instance, as in some Azure credits, from Microsoft, thereby saving as in the business XYZ amount, you know. So if I'm putting that in a report, to my business stakeholders, they can clearly see the outcome. They're not necessarily going to see as in the input. Because for instance, as in engineering do a whole lot, to ensure that our system are stable. But how do you translate that into money? The business is focused on money. You understand? But we've been able to process those transactions successfully, have actually made the organizations money. Okay. But if you're speaking in those rooms, you need to be able to call these things out properly. So you need to be able to read your room, understand who your audience are, communicate in language they would understand. Okay. When you get into your teams, then your technical lingua, can now come into play. Right. Yeah. So that's what I would say. How we communicate these things, it should be outcome driven.
Yeah, and to add to that, I hope you can hear me. Yeah, to add to that, I will say something. Communication is a key skill for any product manager, whether you're business facing, user facing, technical facing, right? And depending on, who you are speaking with at that particular time, you have to think about how they receive the message you're trying to pass to them, right? Um, for users, you have to speak the user's pain points, their language, right? Understand what they want. I hope you can hear me clearly. Am I being heard? Am I?
Yeah, I can hear
Yes,
you.
still audible.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Um, understand what they need, what their needs are, and what their points are, and speak to them using a key tool that helps them to understand. So once you're done with, if you're doing an interview to understand their problems, once you're done with that and you're now discussing potential solutions with them, I would also say use your prototype. Your prototype is a very key tool for discussion, right? So that they can visualize what you say in terms of, will this solution solve your problem, right? In the best way possible, right? So, and also you don't really ask them that, have them actually try to use it, simulate real life experiences with them trying to use this tool, right? Regardless of the technology, of course, they don't want to know how the tech works. They just want to see, does it solve my problem? And will it solve it effectively at the right price? So those are the kinds of comms or communications to have with users. Now, the next thing will be, of course, your stakeholders. When we are talking about stakeholders, of course, the user is a stakeholder, but now I'm talking about internal stakeholders, right? From experience building for multiple departments within an organization. So not just customer facing, but also building internal tools. Your stakeholders will be multiple, right? I've led teams where I'm building for over 7 different departments and trying to integrate and automate their workflows seamlessly within the product and service delivery. So just so that we could have an end-to-end workflow that works seamlessly. Now, with those ones who are your colleagues, they have a different language, right? Now they need to understand that you are there for them, right? Don't worry, we're not just delivering products for external users, we're also making it easy for you yourself to deliver this product to our customers or this service to our customers seamlessly. And these are like the workflows, and have them, bring their concerns as well. So they are also in a way like external users, but with a stake in-house, meaning that they want to fulfill their KPIs, right? Let's say you're speaking to the sales guy and you're building dashboards for him, and you're saying he wants to make 100 sales, within a small geographical location, and he wants to see on his dashboard that you have been able to collate the data from the front end, right? And showed with him on the back end so that he can clearly say, yes, my KPIs were fully met. So in that way, just understanding what they are saying, how they are saying. Now you also have your stakeholders managing up, right? Not just your colleagues or your team, but managing up management, right? How do they best to receive information. And, David has mentioned this from an outcomes or return on investment perspective. How is this going to help the business move forward? Is it going to save cost? Is it going to help us generate revenue? Is it going to help us reduce the time it takes to complete work, right? There are lots of ways that are not necessarily monetary, right? That return an impact, right? Or return that provide return on investment for the business. So it could be monetary, it might not be monetary, but the main thing is that it helps the business move forward. You have to articulate that, and you have to try to communicate as much of that as possible to those stakeholders as management. And now we talk about teams, right? Within teams, you will have the design teams, your technical teams. Are you working with the data scientists? Are you working with the QA? What are the things they want to know? So within the team, it's okay to go as technical as possible, ensuring that you then begin to do work on the technology architecture. What's our content architecture? If you're speaking to the designer, you have to understand, but at the same time, keep helping them tie back the work they do technically to the business goals and to the business outcomes, as well as to the user needs. So just learning communications in this, especially in this digital age, as a key skill for a product manager will make things clear for you. I was saying something I was speaking to a CEO and I was saying something to him. When things work, sometimes we don't understand the amount of work that has gone into it, right? So as a product manager, put in a lot of work in your communication, a lot of thoughts in your communication helps you to thrive, right? You actually have to sit down, articulate what you want to say, even write it down. In fact, it's always best to have written communication and verbal communication. The essence of that is so that you don't waste anyone's time when you come to meetings, right? Even those I coach, I tell them, it's always best to have such clarity that when you
I think we've lost Chama for a bit, or is it just me?
I don't think I can hear either.
Oh, and she was actually dropping real
Yeah, there's some real
insightful
nuggets
or
from what she was
educative,
saying.
enlightening words right now. Yeah.
Probably
Okay.
wait a
So in the
little bit.
meantime, before we get Miss Chama
Okay.
back on, yeah, I could just give a brief summary of what you've been saying. I guess both of you have actually, Mr. David and Choma have actually hammered a lot on communication. It's all about communication to solve all of this, and it's just the right communication to the right person. And as she was saying, even taking it down, as much as going as far as taking notes, writing out what you want to say in whatever meeting, however way, it's also key to proper communication to whoever you're actually facing the communication still. And we still do not have how it does yet. I actually do hope she'll be able to come back to us to join us to wrap up the session and wrap up exactly all those things that she had point out right now.
Let me just add a little
Okay.
bit to what she was saying, and I could relate. So I mean, as a product manager, I would say more than 90% of what you do is communication, right? Communicating to different stakeholders, understanding their linguas, like I said, as in the outcome. She was talking about as in putting a lot of work into how you do the communication, right? And I could relate, you could have some real strategic meetings. If you're not taking notes, you have your AI tools right now that can summarize some certain things for you. You can easily just send it out to everyone as an in the meeting. Okay. But as a product manager that manages the team, I assume that you manage your team on a daily basis, right? And if you're using if you're running iterations, you have a sprints, right? Every day you're looking at outcomes. These are the things as in we achieved, right? If you can take it one at a time, at the end of the week, if you're sending your reports, right, it's very clear what you're able to articulate those things, put them in the proper report as in to your stakeholder, depending on who your stakeholder is. The same way, like she was saying, as in even when you're talking to the designer, you're talking to the developers, the linguas are different. Okay. There's a hack that I used to use for a lot of my team. I let them understand. You need to understand the overall objective of the organization. Okay. In Q1, we want to do XYZ. This is what the organization is, right? If you're a QA, you need to understand that your tax, your input is to us being able to achieve those specific as in OKRs. Maybe it's departmental, now need to break it down. You know, I let as in for my own teams, I may not manage you as in directly, but if we are in the same team, right? I always have sessions, to see how we are doing in terms of our overall objective, making everyone understand that if you're doing your work as a designer, as a QA, your duty is not just to show up and just live, right? You need to understand that you are
Yeah.
building something that would impact the organization. Yeah, so that is a personal hack, as in for me. I believe that is something every other product manager can imbibe in their day-to-day work.
Yeah,
Thank you very much for
and
that,
to conclude,
David.
sorry, I know I dropped.
Okay.
She's back. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, welcome back.
apologies for that. But to conclude, as a PM or a TPM, ensure that you communicate as clearly as possible. It's a key skill that you need to um, be to differentiate yourself and to help your team achieve goals as quickly as possible. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I would say to wrap up this session, just throwing a little question before we go to listening to questions from others, which has been put in the link shared by my colleague on the chat. I would say if you look back to your transition journey, what is one advice or one thing you wished you had known earlier, or something you could give as an advice to a transitioning technical product manager? Probably someone coming from a non-technical role or someone who's already in the technical products roles and hoping to transition into product management. Please just let's use it
Yeah,
to wrap up the session.
yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I would say don't waste your time on. I would say don't waste your time on dwelling on maybe your weaknesses, right? Um, what I mean is that will make you feel less confident about the transition. So don't waste your time there, right? That imposter syndrome, don't spend your time there. Just keep reflecting on what will make you the best TPM that you could ever be. And I would say the first thing is even to take assessment of if you really want to be a technical, product manager. If that's not what you want, it's okay not to be. But it's also know that you have to keep learning, right? Just to be as effective as possible. But if you truly desire to get into being a technical product manager, then don't waste your time saying, oh, I don't know this, or I don't know that. Just ask yourself, where are my strengths and how can I go from point A to point B? Like I've spoken a lot about, we spoke a lot about systems design. So these are things that without even going to school, you could learn by yourself. Take a lot of courses, go learn systems design, understand APIs. Are we building internal APIs? Do we need to connect to external APIs? Just understand things like that, right? And keep your journey moving forward. Keep your journey moving forward. Write better user stories. Ask yourself how you can write better user stories. Look at if you can truly articulate what acceptance criteria should be for each stories. And when you manage your backlog, really manage it. Understand why, like create systems around it so that even you can truly report on what you and your team are working on, right? Is this deprioritized because it's no longer a business priority right now? Or are we going to work on it in the future? Or what's and have your backlog groomed for at least 2 weeks sprints or 2 sprints in advance. So don't worry about whether you're good now. Just focus on getting as good as you can. And what I've learned is if you keep learning the things that are important, that are necessary to grow yourself, to grow your career, it will pay off, right? At some point, you begin to see the benefits of all the work you have put in so far. And at some point, even if you didn't have clarity earlier on, over time, you begin to see, oh, these technical terms are now becoming easier for me to learn or to speak about because somehow I've started gaining this confidence. And you wouldn't know that it's because of the work you put in. All of a sudden, a lot of things don't hold the same power over you anymore because and you don't fear them, and you realize that you're much more comfortable discussing the cost implications of using the AWS service as against another. So
That's true.
don't waste your time in fear anything.
Okay, thank you very much. So, in conclusion, what Ms. Choma is saying is focus on your strengths and do not dwell on your weaknesses and keep doing it, keep learning, just keep moving. So, Mr. David, do you have something else to say for us? What's one thing apart from keep
Yeah,
pushing and
I think that
business habits?
yeah, I think Chama said it all right. But if I'm to add a little bit, if you've decided that you want transition to a TPM, right? What you should be, um, I mean, look at all the different concepts. Right now, there's a lot of information on the internet, in the age of AI, right? Start small. I personally would recommend start from testing, right? As in testing APIs, read up a little bit about, I mean, a lot around that and databases, microservices, right? As a system architecture, as in generally, okay? Determine the extent you want to go. Take it one at a time and be friends with the developers, right? Find someone within your team. Learn to ask questions. Anything you are not sure about, get a body as in within the team, and learn to do your research. Okay. Don't don't think you don't have it in you. You know, first, it all is all in the mindset. Once you've decided this is what I want to do, you should be very curious enough to go get information, take as in short courses on YouTube, on every, I mean, any little area that you want to focus on part time. Yeah, so that's the only way is to get your hands dirty. That's what I would say.
Thank you very much for that. Wow, we've actually had a whole lot of, I don't even know what to say, whether I would say insightful, educative, enlightening. I guess at the end of the day, I think I want to start pushing to be a technical product manager. Thanks to Choma and David. So, and I would say one of the key takeaways I would go with this is communication, keep learning, getting your hands dirty, as you both said, pushing things through, and it's all in the mindset. It's just for you to keep focused, understanding your why, and going through the process of the how to just through the whole process. And like they said, communication, communication, communication. So it's really like almost like a motivational speech of never give up, keep trying, and communicate better. It's so lovely to have you both. Hand over to Esther. It was lovely having this conversation with Ms. Sharma and Mr. David. So over to you, Esther.
All right, thank you so much, Favor, for anchoring this particular panel session. Just like you've mentioned, you've gone over and over on the key takeaway from both panelists, and in short, it's very insightful. I like the fact that Choma was able to relate on the imposter syndrome. Um, kind of bringing us to a stage where it seems she was very vulnerable, and then quite a number of things. I mean, the mixed feelings she was having there. So it's okay if you're in that stage, at least for Shoma to come up strong now and to be able to present the skills and how she was able to navigate that period is actually the key takeaway from me, because there are times you might actually have that kind of mixed feeling, especially in your career role. But I appreciate the fact she was able to navigate how she was able to scale through. And then on a final key takeaway, she mentioned that don't dwell on your past mistake, but focus on your strengths at all. Thank you so much, Chioma and David. We have quite a number of series of questions waiting for you from the participants. I mean, we have quite a number of registrations for this session, but it seems the holiday is still taking a toll on people, and some are joining on YouTube. I believe probably the network is having quite a number of visions, some, but preferably YouTube is standing as the alternative of some people, and also some have started reaching out to asking for the replay of this session, and then yeah, I'll be sharing the YouTube replay on some of us on this, or for some of us on this participants. So you can actually watch the replay of to show us, or let me say to show us the questions that have come in. But in the meantime, I want to go on an ads break. So we mentioned something about technical product management, and Trevor is actually hosted. I mean, we were excited to host this particular live session of technical products management. I've dropped the link in the comment section. This is where we look into technical foundations, understanding software architecture. So we go deep dive practical session into everything that was mentioned in this particular session: API product fluency, system design for product managers, collaboration with technical team. If you notice, one of the major highlights to mention is communication, collaboration. I think Chairman made mention of reading of technical documentation so that she'll be on the same par with our engineers and developers. So all of this is what we'll be looking at for the next 6 to 8 weeks in our technical product management session, which will which should kickstart around October 11th. You may want to save your seat by clicking on the link that I shared in the comment section. And then for those of us that are on this particular call and you belong to a Truffle Learners community, probably you've been coming to sessions like this. There is a 15% discount and you may want to make use of. And I'm sure so what you just apply is there is a particular question: where do you learn about this event? When you put TLC, so that is your promo code for the 50% discount to be applied to you. So you wouldn't want to miss this session. And yes, it will buttress everything that is being said, and not just only theoretical part, practical parts about how this session will be holding, when we have wonderful facilitators that will be taking you by the hand and leading you through all this curriculum. You can ask for the brochure or the particular site that this particular link that I shared with you. So I'll be looking forward to seeing you on the inside, especially with the juicy offer of the 15% that is being offered. So yeah, going to the question and answer. I want to share my screen so that our panelists will be saying the question as I am reading it out. Vibe check. I hope our panelists are still with us. Hi from Jeremy, hi from David. Hi.
Hi.
All
Yeah.
right. Thank you so much. It's a beautiful session so far, and I really like how we're able to break it down, the transitioning and even product management as a whole. But here, somebody is asking, I want both of you to answer the question. Perhaps Chairman can go first, and David. So just give a quarter of whatever answers we can give. And for these questions that is coming, I think we have 4 questions in total. The first question is, what do you do when you feel like everyone on the team is doing something wrong and you don't have a solution to it? And the first instance, I mean, I'm trying to think what this person is thinking, but I guess the person is trying to voice it out. Is this kind of situation, for those that maybe could not relate in a way, is this kind of situation possible, first of all? And what do you think the person should do in this kind of situation? Hi, Chema.
Hi. So it's a really weird position to be in, right? When you feel like everyone
Right.
is doing wrong and you don't have the solution. I will first of all start by asking the question of how do you even know you're doing something wrong when you don't know an alternative method? Let me tell you something I know about teams. You're only as sound, or your solutions are only as sound as your team is willing to go, right?
Mhm.
If you have a team with an experimentation mindset, and or you have a process that helps you with R&D, right? Then your team as a whole will even decide, okay, before we get into solving this problem, let's take a step back and then go run a proof of concept. So we'll do our research and go run a proof of concept. Of course, before you even start saying, oh, we are all doing something wrong, that means you know there's an alternative solution. So why not bring it to the team? And if you have a great process, like I said, everyone will stop to actually check. And of course, these conversations are always best had even before any implementation is done, right? I worked with a team that executed on this excellently well. Like, they've been the best team so far, I will say, that exuded this mindset. And that really helped me, right? That was my job at JobLight, right? My role at JobLight. We would discuss during grooming, backlog grooming, we will discuss every single story and discuss the technical implementation. If it's something we're not sure we could implement, we'll stop everything and do a POC. So a POC is called proof of concept. So it's basically some sort of R&D. So we'll do a small mock-up of the technical implementation that we're thinking of doing, right? And we'll do it at a small scale, whether it's calling an API or building one to connect with an external API. Just trying what we were thinking and then bringing the solution to the team, and then we'll discuss trade-offs. And that's the best way to work, right? So if you are in a scenario like that, if you have an alternative solution that you think is better, maybe faster, more cost effective, or an algorithm that you feel that helps to reduce the load, right, on the API or on the entire website, or a database that will be better, right, in delivering this solution, ask your team, maybe discuss it with the team lead. And when you come to your backlog grooming sessions, be open that you don't know everything, right? And tell the team, hey, guys, so I was reading about this against this, and these were the trade-offs we were discussing. They were discussing, how do you think we should do this? Or even drop it within your Slack channel. Just throw it out there and let the team just look at it. But please do it on time, because it's one thing I know about engineers. They start being reluctant when they're already at execution, right? So you need to find a way to do it on time. Remember what I said, groom your backlog 2 sprints out. So that helps you to then stop and say, okay, do we need to do a POC? Or do we need to do more research around this technical implementation before we have to move forward? So have an iterative mindset, create processes around that. You can just say that we are all wrong and not know where we're wrong, right? And if it's a team that doesn't have space for iteration, experimentation, then what I would say is try it still, but do it in a way that it's fast-paced. But also come to understand that regardless of what you do, if your team doesn't have that culture of experimenting and trying to build things out at MVP level before they now build out something for production, you will only be as good as they are. That's just how it will work, right? But you, of course, continue to push for excellence, but still know that if they don't have that mindset, if your processes don't support that mindset, then the team will not be at the best, will not work at the best level that they could. So maybe the best thing for you will be to maybe try to find your tribe in this case. Yeah. And if it means leaving that role to explore something else, then that will be it. But of course, be as clear as possible in what you want, right? Because of this mindset that I was trained working in a global company, it actually made me now try to drive it in teams moving forward, right? Hey, this is the technical implementation. We discuss ahead. Oh, no, this is not possible. Then we start arguing, right? So, but instead of arguing, bring it in as, okay, could we try this? Okay, why? Why is this solution not going to work? Oh, the current way we have our technical, the architecture says draws this to this. This is the way the data flows. So if we try this implementation, it's going to be costly, but break it down and keep helping the team to see if they could get better, especially through retrospectives. Could we get better? Could we run POCs before we actually do implementation? It could help us. Yeah, I'd like to stop there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Yola. Did you anything so hard to somebody who feels like something is actually wrong to in a particular thing? And then Chioma made mention of being clear. You can't just say everything is wrong. Where exactly is it wrong? Have an iterative mind. And yes, still work on communication skill. David, anything so hard? So that's before we go to the next question. David, if you're speaking, we can't hear you. Is it from my end? I can't seem to hear David.
No, I
Can you hear
can't
me?
hear him either.
Oh wow.
Okay,
Me?
it's coming up. It's coming up.
Okay, how about now?
All right, yes, much better. Please proceed.
Yeah, so I was saying that the question is a bit I'm not sure I get the context properly, but I would assume that this person, when you say everyone is doing things wrong, I would assume that it's coming from two scenarios, right? Probably how the product is being built, and what is being built. Okay. So if I go from the angle of how the product is being built, the question would be, what kind of framework are you running in your organization? Number one, okay. Chairman said something which is very important, and it's something I try to imbibe as in my team. Is having regular grooming sessions. Okay, you don't know everything as the TPM. No matter the research that you've done, right? Sorry, please. I have a child there. No matter the research that you've done, right? By the time you start implementing, you even roll out to customers, there are learnings that should be taken, and that's why development should be iterative, and you can roll out quickly, okay, so that you take learnings. So you could also look at, it could stem from how the organization supports, the project management framework. Are they doing things to the book? Are you running the proper agile shop? Okay, that's one. Okay, the other part is the I talked about as in what is being built. Okay, now in terms of what is being built, you can look at it from a little way. Are you taking learnings as in on time from the market? Are you rolling out as in quickly so that you can take your learnings? If you want to build something, build a lean version of that thing. Get your customers as in first of all, identify as in that need. Speak with customers and see if you can take learnings from them quickly. Sorry, that would be
Okay,
all. Now, please,
all right, no
sorry,
problem, David.
I'm a little child.
It's okay. Audio, your audio was a bit faint. I don't know if we can work on that against the next question. The other question has already been answered. So probably it's been asked by someone who joined live. You might want to watch the replay of this session so that you can get an answer to the question, which has to do with tools and skills that a TPM would need. Also, this question has been answered as well, but then just for emphasis, and just few minutes for Chairman David, if he has any addition to it. What is the most important aspect of technicality does the product manager need to learn or understand first to equip them work in more technical team or side of the products? I think the person is more emphatic on the important parts for them to understand first. I don't know. I think anybody can go first for this question.
Yeah, I would say understand systems, right? Understand how systems architecture work. If you're working on a digital product, understand systems architecture. Understand how you build the client side, the server side, the APIs, right? Understand that fully. Understand how you handle edge cases, right? How do we handle failure gracefully, right? That is error messaging. Understand those. understand inputs, right? For APIs, understand API inputs and outputs, right? So understand things like that. Also work on testing, right? I know David mentioned it at some point, and he mentioned it and mentioned it again. Testing. QA testing is actually a good way to become more of a technical product manager, right? If you are able to test, whether it's automated testing, manual testing, as far as you test, you understand the system, you understand the front end, the back end, and you understand APIs. Then understand deployments. How do we manage deployments? What infrastructure do we use to manage deployments? So understand basic things like CI/CD pipelines and have fun with it, right? If you want to work in AI, then you will have to go a slightly more deeper, understanding things like the databases, vectorization, prompt engineering, then understand low code stack, because currently that is actually taking a lot of prevalence now in building AI tools, right? How do I quickly prototype or create a small version or a low code version of an AI product using the available low code stack? So things like Flutter Flow for the UI and basic backend, Xano for backend, full backend implementation, and then LangChain, right? For actually building out the AI agents. Understand RAG, right? The augmented retrieval method of, memory storage. That helps a lot with search. Understand how to take a knowledge base and create a GPT from it. So it could be a GPT or it could be a chatbot that is very strictly for a particular business case or business scenario. So try to understand those. Understand SQL or Excel. So whichever one, you need some sort of data analysis, right? Skills. So you need to also try to learn that. Mixpanel or Google Analytics, whichever one you're okay with. I like tools a lot. It can be overwhelming, but yeah, just get in there and try your hands at tools. Pendo is a very good tool to understand if you want to work in growth product management. So learn to onboarding, building out things very quickly within your product. Yeah, understand them. So when you say most important, I don't know. Just take it one step at a time, right? Just start with understanding of the entire systems and then just gently go from there.
Thank you so much, Shola. Understand the whole system, how it works. The one that actually resonates more with me, how to handle failure gracefully. Very interested fact. Thank you so much. David, would you want to add to that?
Okay, I think Choma said a whole lot, right? So at the beginning, it may be overwhelming, right? So start with testing. Okay. Understand. She talked about understanding architecture, right? Which is very important. That gives you an overview of the system. Okay. You need to understand how the system talks to each other, all the different integrations, so also look at databases as well too. At least this is basic. This is the basic, right? Looking at the front end, what kind of framework, you should be focused on. The basis of, as in React, for instance, okay, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. In the very least, just you. I mean, it doesn't mean that you need to start coding with these things. You need to understand. You need to learn this. Understand so that when you're talking to a front end engineer, you're speaking the language he understands. Okay. Looking at what the outcome should be. If you're building a mobile or desktop, look at as in the usability, around that, So if you understand these frameworks, it gives you an edge. Okay. Um, I mean, it now depends on what framework your organization use, as in from backend environments, the likes of as in Spring framework, for instance, that could be one, or Node.js. Okay. The key thing is for you to really understand how the front end doesn't speak with the back end, and understanding the basic as in framework. Okay. And also being able to test all these interactions as in within the system gives you an edge. At times you find out the software tester knows the system more than anyone else. That has been my own personal as an experience. Then also being able to document things. I think at the point in time, Shoma talked about being able to read technical as in documents. It's very, very key. Not just being able to read, you also need to be able to document as well too. That makes you understand the system as a whole. You need to think from a system perspective now. It helps you understand all the key interactions, within the entire Asm system.
All right. Thanks so much, David, for adding to that. I think from your own perspective, testing, most important one, and then also all other skill sets that you mentioned also follows. Just like what Chema also said, just start from there and then you take it one step at a go so that you won't be overwhelmed, although it's really overwhelming. One last question before we call this session and we'll go to our feedback session. What are the tech stack? I think Chema mentioned that. What are the tech stack one should start with for somebody just transitioning from a non-technical role? This has been mentioned, but I think the person was more specific about the tech stack. David, would you want to briefly answer that? We are far beyond, or let me say far beyond time.
Yeah, I think I mean, my last response, that was just basically what I just
answer that.
talked about, right?
Exactly.
Can you hear me clearly?
Exactly. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I've talked about as in the front end and back end, if you're talking about stack, right? For the front end, again, it depends on what your organization use, and if you do your research as well too. If as it depends on what you want, okay? But in the very least, you should be able to understand, HTML as in CSS, JavaScript, okay? But in terms of framework, right? You should understand, you can pick up as in React, for instance, okay? React, Angular, okay? Some organizations as in they can use as in Vue, but I think React and Angular, for me as in, is okay, right? For backend, again, there's no one size as in fits all. It depends on what area you want to specialize in, okay? If it's a Java environment, you can as a framework, for instance, okay? You could also, Python as well too, depending on what type of applications as in you want to build, then Node, Node.js, as well, okay? So there's no one size as in fits all. It depends on what your objective are. You can research this as in further. Depends on what your objective are. You can look at where you want to be in the next as in few years, what area you want to specialize in. Yeah,
Okay,
and of
thank you,
course they
David.
can take some classes. They can take some
Okay,
classes with Triford, right? You guys talk about these things as an in-depth, Um,
thank
yeah,
you,
but
David.
those are areas they can look at.
I don't know if you're still speaking, but your audio seems to have gone faint. Um, okay, okay. Shaman, is it? I think you've answered that, but would you want to reiterate on it? Okay, let's go ahead.
Oh, I think we've both covered it. We have it both covered, but I would say if you're interested in AI products, ML, AI, machine learning products and projects, you will have to learn Python, right? Just start from there. It will give you lots of things, at least at the basics, understanding the data types, stacks, queues, things like that, and just understand the data science life cycle, right? And understand how it works collaboratively with the software engineering, life cycle, right? SDLC, software development life cycle. So that will be something I will mention. Then, like I mentioned, deployments, try to understand cloud services, cloud hosting. For data pipelines, try to understand how you move data from point A to point B. There are lots of tools. Airbyte is a good one as an ETL pipeline. So just learn, learn, go out, look at tools, local tools, look at how their APIs work. And yeah, just learn. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Emma. And I think that is the end of question and answer. Any other question? I believe the answer has been provided. I have dropped the YouTube link where you can watch the replay of this session. So here's our feedback session. For every of our triathlon event, we always end it with a feedback session. How will you rate this particular panel in session? What are your key takeaways from this moment, and what do you advise we as a team improve on? You can just go to the comment section. I've dropped the link where you drop all this feedback for us. Feedback is very important for us, very important for us. So just a few minutes of your time to be able to do that. Yeah, I'll share my screen. Yeah. When you click on the link, this is what you see. How you rate this session, you just click on that. What are your key takeaway from this session, and what do you advise we improve on? In case you missed the link, I'll be dropping it again in just 1 or 2 minutes. Let's be sure to do that. Rate the session, what are your key takeaways, and what do you advise we improve on? And then just to emphasize, I also mentioned that will be we are excited to launch our technical product management live session that will kickstart October 11th. I have dropped the link also where you can also enroll for this seat. And of course, it's a limited seat because we are not only looking forward to just the practical session, just the theoretical session, but a practical session where facilitators will actually please close keen eye to learners, make sure that you carry each of those participants along, and to be able to manage that is actually limited slots. And if you're part of TLC event so far, you're currently on this call, 15% discount applies. So you might want to make use of this opportunity. Just do well to click on the link that I have shared and then be a part of the amazing session you have. You can just take a look at the curriculum and see how robust and well defined it is. And yes, we are still waiting for our feedback. How will you rate the session? What are your key takeaways from this session, and what do you advise we improve on? Chama David, like any farewell speech or parting speech for us, especially this transitioning, just to wrap up the session, who I will take feedback. Over to you. Anyway.
I would say take courses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Traffic has a TPM course, so just get on board and take one and see how this works in, practical, right? Not just theory. And don't be afraid to try out new things. You desire this, you can make it happen. You just need time, right? And the right guidance. And Trevor is here to give it to you. So
Thank you so much, Chioma. We appreciate this. Thank you so much. Please, yes, take courses, come for programs, and we'll be sure to offer you the very best. Hi, David. Anything from your end while we wrap up this session?
Would say stay hungry, keep
Stay
learning,
hungry. Keep learning.
embrace AI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, try to reach out to people already in the field and get your hands dirty. It's only
Get
in
your
getting your
answer.
hands dirty, in doing, that's when you get more confident and
Mm-hmm.
better.
Thank you so much, David. David has been saying it. Get your hands dirty. Get your hands dirty. And yet again, get your hands dirty. Thank you so much, Shema and David. This is a very robust and intense moment. I notice some people are still typing their feedback. I know you've learned a lot. Please do well to type on time before we round up this session. You're still typing, do well to type on time because we'll be sharing the feedback with our facilitators. We'd love to see how this session has impacted in one way or the other. And yeah, what's key takeaway you actually take away from this session? It's very, very important to us. Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much, Joma. It's so good to have you around. Everybody that joined us from YouTube, and everybody that will still watch the replay or still join us later on. It's so good to have you all around. I really hope you've been able to learn one or two. And then yes, you can look forward to more sessions we'll be having lu.ma/trip for the event and then sign up for any of our upcoming events like this. Do have a wonderful weekend and have a wonderful rest of the day. So good to have you around, Shoma and David, and bye for now.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.